Hi everyone, Angela here. You can find the link for this horizontal snap closure eyeglass case down in the description below. You'll need fabric for the lining, fabric for the main top piece, and also fusible batting or foam with the glue dots on one side. Cut out one piece in each of these fabrics. On the bottom of the lining, use a vanishing marking pen to mark out the notches. This is where you're going to start and stop your stitching, leaving an opening at the bottom. If you're a beginner sewer and corners are a challenge for you, grab a grid ruler that has the 1/4 inch markings on it. On the wrong side of the lining and using a vanishing pen, mark a short line 1/4 inch from the edges for each corner. Where the lines intersect will be where your needle pivots. Links for all the tools I use can be found in the description below. Lay the wrong side of the main fabric on top of the glue side of the batting. Make sure all of the edges match and press together without any steam. Place the lining on top with right sides together and your markings showing. Then if you need to, pin or clip all around. On the bottom edge, start stitching from this notch using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, back tacking at the start and finish. Make sure your needle is down when you're pivoting at the corners. Hang on securely to all the layers to keep them all even, or if you have one, use your walking foot. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on all notifications, and also leave a comment below. When you've stitched around to the bottom edge, stop at that second notch and back tack. Trim all your threads, and on the bottom corners, trim the seam allowance on a diagonal and go back on each side and trim away a little bit of a curve. Make sure not to cut too close to the stitching. For the inner corners, cut as close as you can to the point without cutting the thread. At the top point, just cut straight across, and then around the wide curves, trim off half the seam allowance. To turn the fabric right side out, make sure to turn all of the seam allowances towards the lining. Then use a knitting needle or point turner to poke out the corners and also to slide all around the seam allowances. Now we need to give this a press by pulling on the lining so that just a little bit of the main fabric is showing on the edge. This way the lining won't show from the outside when we sew it together. At the opening, turn in the 1/4 inch seam allowances and make sure the edges are nice and smooth, then give it a press. Match the edges with the lining slightly lower than the main fabric and pin in place. To close this opening, we're going to edge stitch right across this entire edge. The stitching should be just to the left of the lining. Hold on to your top and bobbin thread when starting, put your needle in, sew a couple of stitches, then back tack and continue. Because it's a bit puffy, just stretch it a little bit to help guide it. Make sure you're catching the lining when you're sewing across the opening. By doing it this way, we don't have to do any hand stitching. So you can see the opening is closed and the stitching is nice and neat on the right side. Then trim your threads well and flip over with the lining side up. Right at this corner, turn and match your curved edges, pin or clip in place, and then repeat for the other side. Turn it over, and then we're going to start our 1/4 inch top stitching from this bottom fold. Lift your foot and place the fabric slightly past the bottom edge, place your needle in, hold on to your thread, stitch a couple of stitches, and then back tack. Continue stitching, matching those edges, and when you get to the end of the shorter side, you can back tack a few stitches to give it some extra strength. Continue top stitching all around, pivoting at that top corner and back tacking at the end. Trim your threads and then give it a quick press all over. On the lining side, mark down 1/2 inch from the top point. The snapper press stud that I'm using measures about 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters. Sew the female side of the snap to the top, making sure not to catch the outside fabric. Then pop some glasses in, fold over the top flap. There should be about ½ inch between the point and the bottom edge. Then mark the center for the other half of the snap. Then sew this on with coordinating thread. Because the snap is low on the closure, you don't end up pressing your glasses when you close it. Now you can leave it finished like this or add something decorative on top. Be sure to check out some of my other tutorials. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, take care and happy sewing.